start off with the Leona Thresh.
Nice. This is what we wanted to see. Jump right in on it. AaamBaaam. This is what we want to see. We want to see the Leona pulled out with the Thresh and see what you can do.
Yeah, I don't even remember if it got pulled out last game or if they just died to the Destroyer. I think someone just died to the Destroyer and we never actually saw the Leona come out, but don't remember for sure. And Xiramus, we've got the Zedley Sin, War Mother's Call, and Twisted Fate Swain. So about as standard as a lineup as you could possibly get. So if you are going to bring out this weird deck, you have to be able to beat the normal lineup. And that's exactly what we're going to get here. And if AaamBaaam picks up game number 1 with this deck, I'm going to feel really good about their chances going in through the rest of this top 8.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to see a lineup right here against the War Mothers to start. We're going to see if they can compete with the late game. Bratchedkata, Trundle Trinamir, 3 War Mother's Call, 2 Ruination, 3 Vengeance, 2 Atrocity, with the 1 of Ladros. That 1 Soul Gorger we talked about earlier, cut down on the Hearthguard, so only 2 Hearthguard. Looks like that was the swap. Cut the 3rd Hearthguard for the Soul Gorger. Concession to the aggro decks. 2 Flash Freeze. That card's picking up in popularity just being played. And a lot of Freyord decks. An Avalanche. Looking like a good Daybreak Curve to start.
Yeah, I mean, that's about as good as an opener as you could ask for. That's kind of like the Demacia standard of just, oh yeah, it's turn 2. Here's 5 damage. 25% of your life total, right off the top.
The one of Spacey Sketcher pickup here. What do you like coming out of a Sketcher in this matchup?
I'm not going to lie. I don't like Spacey Sketcher.
Oh, okay.
I just don't like that. Like, it's a 3 of in like every Lee Sin deck that I was seeing for a while, and I'm like, sure, you've got good discard targets, but I feel like the cards coming out of it aren't super impactful. I mean, the Messenger's cool, but things like, I mean, I guess in a matchup like this, because you are so tempo based, I really wouldn't hate the Trickster, but I mean, the Charger really doesn't find a lot of value. Some of the spells are a little bit weird. There's no really high cost card in this deck that I'm looking for something like the Moon Silver from. I mean, Moon Glow wouldn't necessarily be bad, but with 3 Vile Feast and 3 Unspeakable Horror in my opponent's deck, that Spell Shield gets popped pretty instantly. There's no non-champion that I really care about silencing with the Equinox. I feel like the Sketcher is really going to struggle to find value unless you can get that Trickster or that Messenger in a matchup like this.
I agree. I think on the previous turn, I think you can get a little aggressive with the Sketcher. Against Weirding Stones, I like getting the Equinox to just pick off the stones, slow down the development. It's not the best. Again, is that worth playing a 1-mana 1/1? I agree with you. I don't really care for Spacey Sketcher, but given that's the option at hand, always try and make the best of it. So I wouldn't hated to see possible Equinox fish.
Instead, we're going to get this Thresh down. I mean, 3 Unspeakable Horror in hand. This isn't great in a matchup like this, and so far, Bratchedkata has had the perfect curve. We get the Wording Stone on 3. We get the Trundle down on 5. We skip turn 7 with this, Catalyst of Aeons, and that is going to accelerate us right into the Trundle level up / Tryndamere turn. You know, War Mothers could come down on the following, and I mean, sometimes your opponent just opens the perfect hand. And even though this can go toe-to-toe with War Mothers in most situations, if your opponent opens perfectly and you get stuck up on 3 copies of Unspeakable Horror, maybe you just don't get it done. And, you know, I don't think we're going to see Bratchedkata attack this turn. I don't think we're going to see any of these Unspeakables fired off. And even if they were, you know, is it ever correct to go face with them? Are you trying to just burn out your opponent and go around them, understanding that controlling the board doesn't matter as much at this point? Wording Stone is going to get full value next turn, and if it dies anytime after that, Bratchedkata is going to feel fine about it. I think you really missed your opportunity to kill this card, and that's just kind of the way things played out. The ramp was a little bit too fast this time around.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting this Trundle leveled up here is also going to start pressuring this Thresh. There's no good answer for a leveled up Trundle here, other than just feeding it. Maybe the stun wouldn't be bad, but the level up's going to happen on AaamBaam's attack turn. So an open attack with a Trundle will be able to clear out one of these units. It doesn't look like there's anything that could really stop that from happening. So not a great position, I don't think, for AaamBaaam. Most Thresh decks, this is probably where we're going to see that questionable. We have Leona next to Thresh because Thresh might be able to do something if it's pulling out something big to maybe combat these War Mothers, these big threats, and maybe to try and go a little bit more toe to toe. But even if the Thresh did survive, I don't think it's really popping much here. But don't know the deck well enough. We'll see how AaamBaaam can navigate through this.
So a byproduct of the Thresh that I didn't really think about, that we haven't talked much about, where you see this a lot in the Thresh Lux deck. Thresh does give you the capability to get multiple copies of the same champion on board. I don't know that double Leona is the best champion to get two of, but it's definitely not bad. I mean, if we could see this Thresh level into a Leona, and then with Ravoon and two Leona out, get off a Leona's Morning Light, that's what, 4 stuns down onto our opponent's field?
Oh wow, yeah, and just try and maybe push an OTK, similar to what you would see with like a Harrowing or something.
Yeah.
Could produce like a turn like that for sure.
But instead, the Ravoon is going to die to this Tryndamere. Nothing that AaamBaaam is going to be able to do about that one. And then, yeah, this Trundle just going to push a lot of damage as well. And we're not quite in atrocity range yet, but we're really getting there.
Yeah, definitely something that can close this game pretty quick. Would be a little short. There is 3 points of healing in AaamBaam's hand in the form of the full set of Unspeakable Horrors drawn. I might try and actually take out this Trundle if the attacks line up like this. Does not have to worry about Troll Chant.
All right, so we're waiting until post-combat so we get the full value out of these Unspeakable Horrors. And as long as these are fired off one at a time, we do play around the atrocity.
Right.
Well, at least the atrocity onto the Trundle. The atrocity onto the Tryndamere is still a possibility. Of course, we will be able to heal outside the range of that, but I don't necessarily feel great about our chances of winning the game if we are still staring down a 9-9 Trundle at the end of the day. But I'm going to start off with a seemingly random Vile Feast. Maybe, not actually sure what we're setting up for here. Maybe just trying to get an additional blocker on the field through this Leona.
Yeah, that looks to be the setup for just an extra blocker for Leona, yes. Because with the absence of Grasp and the list from Bratchedkata, doesn't seem like it's doing much. Maybe soften it up for a potential Avalanche. That's possible as well.
Cygnus the Moonstalker, not the most effective card in a situation like this. Really not going to be threatening lethal anytime soon with the board we have available. And that was sort of one of the problems that we had with this deck is there's no clear win condition. As value-centric as you seem, you do still have a hard time when something like a War Mothers is going to get online as early as it did here.
Definitely. Now, we do see this Thresh at 5 of 6. There is an Unspeakable Horror here. That Vile Feast might come back to bite Bratchedkata. Used as what looked like to be a soft pass. Not much impact on the board. Given a easy unit to remove to possibly level up this Thresh right here. We'll see if AaamBaaam goes for it.
All right, it looks like that will be the case. And I mean, there's no War Mothers online yet for Xiramus, and that does mean we're going to be staring down, 4 units to 2.
Yeah, I think the big question is, if you have a board like this, Boulevard, with the Thresh and the Leona and the Thresh leveled up, it's always tough because you kind of want to attack with the Thresh and get the unit in play, but Tryndamere does make for a strong blocker. And you're looking at this Morning Light. It's like, do you want to come with this Morning Light, potentially take out all the blockers?
I think if AaamBaaam is going to win this game, risks need to be taken. And I think the Morning Light is a risk that we're going to have to go for. We do have the Bastion on follow-up, but we are, sort of going to be vulnerable to a Ruination.
Right. Yeah, the Ruination, definitely. And then even a Vengeance in response on the Leona could stop the stuns. Oh, we see Atrocity on the Thresh. Wow.
I don't think you mind that all that much. That is one less tool for Xiramus to win the game that is now out of the hand.
Yeah.
I mean, this 9-9 Tryndamere is still difficult to deal with.
Well, That also probably opens up your play decision for next turn because if you stun the Trinamir, it's leveled now, so the potential punish from Ruination doesn't even look that great on Bratchedkata because the Trinamir is already leveled, so it won't survive the Ruination. Ooh, draws another Thresh.
And we've got a couple units we can get down after we throw out this stun as well. We've got the Lunari Priestess, this Spacey Sketcher as well. Got a couple of good options here, but I don't think we've got lethal.
No, this is looking. No, this is looking like one above lethal.
You still got the
Oh,
pillar.
it's only you're only gonna get the one stun. So would need to play another unit and to promote the lethal. It seems like you would play that. No, you're getting 2 stuns off of this, right?
Oh yeah, I always forget how morning lately. I like remember when I'm setting up for it, but and then it happens and I forget that it's gonna stun twice.
Yeah, so this is gonna be presenting lethal, which is gonna force Bratchedkata to do something to respond here. Doesn't have any effective removal in response other than maybe a Vengeance. We might see a Vengeance in front of this Leona to stop the stuns.
And that would just get blown out by a Bastion, and I would have to assume will be lethal. Vile Feast.
To pick up
Much.
an extra blocker, I guess is the plan here.
Yeah, I still really like this position for AaamBaaam, who I think then gets to throw down the Spacey Sketcher and kind of see where we go from there. If you can pick up a copy of, literally anything, because the Spiderling is getting stunned instead of the pillar, you can still drag that to the side with the Spacey Sketcher and, still present lethal.
Yeah, because the Spider got stunned. Yeah, you don't even need to actually find a challenger.
Ooh, I don't like this. I really like trying to go for lethal here because we have these cards in hand, and the Spacey Sketcher still leaves out the Bastion, but AaamBaaam gonna disagree and just goes for the damage push here.
Yeah, maybe AaamBaam's thinking, well, if you have Vengeance, you would have Vengeance in response. Like, that Vile Feast was really soft, okay? And so if you don't have Vengeance, your board isn't actually threatening me with this Trinamir alone. I have more resources to develop, and if you make any kind of development, I will. I don't know. Now you have the Daybreak. Didn't have a Daybreak spell before. If you had a Daybreak, that seemed like a possible reasonable attack on the last turn, but we'll see what happens. Goes to try and take out this Leona with a Trinamir on the open, as to not get punished by any Daybreak.
So I'm gonna cheat here. I think Xiramus is streaming, so I'm actually gonna pop into that real quick just to see what is in his hand so we can get that information.
Okay.
All right, so it's man. Okay, so 2 Vile Feast, 1 Atrocity, a War Mother's Call, and a Battle Rage.
Oh wow.
Nope, I lied. He has a lot of delay on. We are back at the point where the Thresh has not yet died to the Atrocity. So we are actually he's a couple minutes behind, so I actually have no idea what's in his hand. I know there's at least a War Mother's Call in there.
Looking at this invoke, picks up the Destroyer. That's going to be a potent threat right here with Bratchedkata being at 5, having a spell shield already, bashing to back up what's on board. Plenty of units on board. The War Mother's churning them out.
All right, if every single game that I see today just ends with this Destroyer, and that's how I consistently see her win these games, it's another weird thing where like I talk about how I don't know what the win con of this deck is, and apparently it's just consistently find the Destroyer.
Yeah.
But has the lethal lineup onto the pillar thanks to that Bastion, and the Withering Whale going to take that one offline.
Wouldn't be surprised. When is this Sketcher supposed to come into play? That's what I'm wondering.
Because I'm so biased against the card, I feel like I constantly run into these situations where I get to harp on it even more of like, we're just going to see the entire game without this Sketcher getting played, apparently. And I wouldn't have minded it before the Destroyer came down, just to see if we can get something to play beforehand and add to the attack points of it. But, if we did see a Celestial come out beforehand and this was at an 8/7, maybe we'd have a lethal presentation here with this Bastion.
It definitely, and even the Sketcher just being able to possibly pick up a Crescent Strike and take out the Trinamir and one of these Hearth cards as a blocker, we could have seen these Solari Soldiers, maybe even the one in hand as a 2/2, come into play and possibly attack. Does have to worry a little bit about possibility of an avalanche. There are 3 avalanches in Bratchedkata's deck, so maybe that line was taken off for that reason. But even still, like, an avalanche would certainly level this Thresh.
And that definitely seems like something that Bratchkata is trying desperately to avoid. Here we're going to see the Trundle, and this does just continue to make things harder and harder for AaamBaaam to win the game. And I think this will actually be the final nail in the coffin. That pillar being able to drag the destroyer all the way away from these overwhelm units should be enough damage for Bratchkata to actually push through for the win, but maybe not if there's a withering whale.
Yeah, that's a good pickup here. 10 health. We're looking at currently 14, 15 overwhelm on board, not counting any cards in Bratchkata's deck to further pump that Trundle. At least 7 toughness outside of the destroyer getting if it were pulled by this ice pillar. So that's it looks to be lethal without with the whale surviving at 2.
I
Barring
think
any cards in hand.
so. I'm pretty sure Xiramus has a battle rage in hand, so I think this is just over.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If that is still in hand from when I went and checked from a couple of minutes ago, yeah, I think that we have just seen the end of the game here. And AaamBaaam had a couple of chances to try for lethal, but wanted to play a little bit safer, and that's not something you can afford to do when your opponent is churning out units every turn with this War Mother's Call.
Yeah, I think playing against War Mothers, it's a gauge of that in the early to mid game. But once that War Mothers comes online, it's like no holds barred. Everything has to come to close the game because you will get buried by the card advantage and board position that it just overwhelms you with very quickly. I mean, we saw it was just Trinamir and a pillar 2 turns ago.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure we're going to need the Battle Rage to present lethal here. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. We're still going down to -5. The Withering Whale and the Bastion would just put us at -1. So the Battle Rage not even going to have to come out of Bratchkata to move up 1-0 here in the series. But that does mean that AaamBaaam is going to get another chance with this Leona Thresh deck. And maybe the remaining deck, either the Lee Sin Zed or I think it's Anoxus Nab. We'll get to see if the Thresh deck can take that one out.
No doubt. And we didn't see the Leona Thresh deck banned. And I think looking at this Leona Thresh deck, it seems like it's poised very much so. You see this Withering Whale being cast here. Not a great card against War Mothers. This is the type of deck that a War Mothers deck should prey on. These mid-range decks going way over the top of them.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, AaamBaam's doing all they can at this position. I mean, would survive at 1, would have lethal on the following turn with Cygnus as well as this other elusive on the board. But as I mentioned, pretty sure there's a Battle Rage in there, so that's not going to work out.
Trinamir spell on the Trinamir.
You love to see it.
Two times today.
Oh, man. That one was... I definitely felt like there were a lot of spaces where AaamBaaam actually could have won that one, or at least made attempts to win that one, but instead just holding back a little bit too much. And I'd like to see some of that aggression come out in the next game. Understand I did put myself in positions where maybe the losses came because I wasn't playing aggressively enough. I don't want to, run into those same mistakes in the following game, and we'll see if they actually do kind of put their foot on the gas a little bit harder.
Definitely. Looks to line up the Gangplank deck here. Might make a little swap. What are your thoughts on that on swapping decks? I had a long conversation with this with my team about this recently, specifically the Black Boss, and we had a debate over because we had a backseat tournament whether you should swap into the second deck after a loss, after win. You have to swap after the loss. If you swapped into the other deck, since you're gonna have to play that deck anyway, should you just go ahead and play it? Is there any merit to making the swap?
Some players like the mental reset just kind of wash out my mouth. Oh, I just took a loss with this deck. I don't want to play it again. Let me just take a quick reset, see if I can pick up a win with this other deck, make myself feel better. Some people really like to just run it back, like, okay, I know what I did wrong in that game. That was my fault. I'll just run this deck back, or like it has a better matchup into this. And I don't think it makes too much of a difference. I think it is 100% on player preference and the kind of mentality that they bring into a tournament. Personally, I wouldn't switch decks. I'm just fine running the same thing back. I don't know how you feel about this kind of thing.
Ooh, well, definitely. If I lost, I'm switching almost every time, and
Okay.
mostly because my opponent's right. And you see how you looked at it in the lens of, maybe reset my own mental on this, and try and pick up a win. You know, and the thing about it is if my opponent just beat me against this deck, they already have a W against this deck, so they're already riding high on I can beat this deck. I just beat that deck. And so I think if I want to get a game win in the set to bring it to a game three, the swap is important because it could take away some of that win that they have in their sails, specifically against this deck, and you bring a different puzzle to them, not one that they just solved and that they're used to. But we see a good curve here. You got the 1-2-3 on the daylight curve. If
Yeah, no.
AaamBaaam wants to take it.
Oh, instead gonna go for the. I don't mind this. You do want to save that Vile Feast for a Make It Rain. If that Solari Priestess came down, then a Make It Rain could just get about as much value as that card is physically capable of getting by blowing up an entire 3 units.
Yeah, gonna avoid the potential Make It Rain blowout there. So I like the pass there, Holden. And then now being able to bank that mana can actually have some counterplay to it with the Vile Feast while getting the same development on the following turn.
All right, so this is a Thresh, or not a Thresh, sorry, a Twisted Fate Swain deck, which I don't love the Warrior against. I think I'd almost prefer the Golden Sister just to try to keep the aggression on. This is a deck that doesn't have any kind of healing. While the Keg and a Death's Hand can take out the Sisters, outside of that, they would need a Noxian Fervor, which is generally going to connotate the sacrifice of one of their own units anyway. So I do really like getting those multiple units out, trying to go wide around my opponent. But going to disagree and go for the Meteor Shower here. Doesn't immediately threaten anything with that 4 damage, but can soften up a Swain enough, which is something that you could have trouble with otherwise.
Absolutely. And we do see the Vile Feast counteract the Keg with the Make It Rain that looked to clear out at least 2 units there. And I'm liking this board position. And there's still plenty of lagging units around. They're going to have to be dealt with, which might be around when the Thresh sees play. Thresh loves seeing the deaths go into the Lantern. So I'm liking this position for AaamBaaam. This seems like it, right where she wants to be for this match. Draws the Leona as well. So both champions here. We'll see how they line up against this Swain.
Yeah, I really thought there was going to be a Twisted Fate follow-up on the side of Bratchedkata, but instead now, yeah, the Salvage fired off, which means we could have drawn into a Twisted Fate, but with the Swain coming down now, by the time a TF gets online, the Thresh will likely be on field, and you really don't want to feel that one as much as you would be, especially because it would then immediately be able to challenge the TF. And I think that if Xiramus can kill this Thresh, he's going to feel really good about potentially going for a TF win con. There is not a lot of removal in AaamBaam's deck, and I think that that's something we see a lot with Targon. The TF win con opens up a lot more than it does against any other kind of region.
Absolutely, and that might be exactly why AaamBaaam took this Meteor Shower, really respecting that TF, as you said, generally very good against the Targon decks.
This is not too far off lethal.
Oh, you look up, yes, this is actual lethal. So, you're as called. Here comes the TF with the red card. This is going to clear out 2 of the attackers. Provide a blocker. No way to remove this blocker outside of fishing with the Sketcher. So.
Oh, and I really like this attack as well. Offering up the value trade onto my Solari Priestess. If you go for that, you're still taking 9 damage. And with AaamBaaam having that little bit of over the top damage in the Unspeakable Horror, 2 health is not a breakpoint you're willing to fall down towards. And now we're going to see the Flock come out, but that will just eat up a Guiding Touch. And unless a Make It Rain high rolls, there's nothing that Bratchedkata is going to be able to have to re-damage that Ravoon. and kill it. I'd really like to see this guiding touch come out here, continue to keep the aggression on, you know, negate that removal spell, and even gets another celestial generator. So the destroyer win condition back online if we can hit a traveler.
Oh yeah. This destroyer of the day is definitely the winner of the day here, and yeah, constantly pushing, maintaining board presence, being able to counter that flock is huge. You see Bratchedkata at 5, no healing in that deck. Leviathan, Riptide, both 2 turns away. Second flock does come down, levels up the Swain, removes the Leona. Still has 1 fearsome blocker though, so the Swain won't have a good open attack here. We'll see. This level's up's huge here though, because the Sunburst will no longer be able to remove the Swain.
Oh, but the Vile Feast now will be able to take it out in conjunction with that Sunburst, and we're going to see the stun down onto the Ravoon. Looks like we're hovering the Meteor Shower, potentially. I think it's got to be the Sunburst, and there isn't anything that Bratchedkata is going to be able to do to stop this Swain from dying. No kind of protection for this in the Twisted Fate Swain deck, and that's one of the problems that you run into a lot in the Lee Sin matchup is, anytime your opponent discovers a Comet or any kind of those removal spells, you're sitting here and your Swain's getting removed, and there's just absolutely nothing that the TF Swain deck can do about it except maybe try to use the health pool as a Noxian Fervor target.
Yeah, absolutely. Petty Officer getting the loneliest of Puros here. Gonna look to try and go wide and take advantage of this stun Raven. Maybe try and start the counter push.
I am concerned about killing the Petty Officer over the Swain. I think there's no reason to ever kill this instead of the Swain, even though it doesn't have Fearsome, even though I can block it this turn. If a Make It Rain comes out here and hits the 2 1-health units, then that Swain is suddenly a problem. We are really set up for this Withering Wail at the moment, but I don't know. It seems like a weird choice to me to take that out instead.
I think it's a risk that you can take. You do lock yourself into casting either the Meteor or the Withering Wail next turn, because you don't want your opponent to open with the Unsilenced Swain on the following turn. Try and get the kill.
Maybe we were just playing around our opponent playing another copy of Swain. I think they were still at 5 mana at that point. I don't think the Plucky Poro had come out yet, so that's probably what we were going for.
Here's the Make It Rain. Withering Wail will deny the Swain the stun off of this Make It Rain.
Does put us down to, looks like 1 mana for the turn. It's not the end of the world. It is still turn 7. There's nothing too threatening coming out of a Twisted Fate Swain deck on this turn. 1 Swain down. One of them got shuffled back a little bit earlier as a Ravenous Flock. So while we're probably not taking any attacks this turn as AaamBaaam, I don't think the damage that you're pushing through really matters as much as the damage that would be pushed onto your Ravoon or something like that. But still don't hate the position. But this is the second game I feel where we've had this Spacey Sketcher just sit in hand for the entire game, and now we're actually going to see it. And the Traveler is not what I thought we were discarding, but I don't hate an Equinox pickup going into the Leviathan turn.
Yeah, it feels like a hard removal spell for Leviathan in the context of how important it is to set up the Swain Leviathan in a lot of mid-range matches. Not a bad pickup. I was hoping to see that, or maybe potentially even a Serpent could have gave a good attack for this Ravon over here and get him down to like less health, but nope. Here's another Jack. Should shut down any combat on this turn. Jack the winner. Not the 5/6 that he once was, but still holds it down against this board. Nope. AaamBaam's coming in. Let's get the attack in. Probably fine to offer up this trade with the Jack. It would turn off Sleep with Fishes, which could make it hard for Bratchedkata to actually enable maybe a Riptide Rex if that's the 8-drop instead of the Leviathan. Has the Leviathan handled, so maybe doesn't mind taking the Jack off the board and offering that trade up for that reason.
Oh, instead we're going to let the Jack survive. So I think this does really telegraph a Riptide Rex, really wanting to keep that Sleep with the Fishes online. And I mean, Riptide would be a problem, but AaamBaaam has the tools to remove it. If a Riptide comes down, we are just 1 mana shy, though, of playing both the Meteor Shower and the Grasp of the Undying, but it's actually a Captain Farron, which we might have to Equinox just to remove the Overwhelm on. This is suddenly, 14 damage represented in the hand of Xiramus, and this is not the ideal target for a card like this.
Yeah, the one of Captain Farron showing up here. It's not a card that you usually see in Swain TF. Most players err on the side of, well, I have to play 3 Leviathans to go with my Swain. Let's fit in a Rex or 2. 2 has been pretty standard, but going full force with the full 6-8 drops. Focusing on that late game.
I mean, I don't hate it. It's going to work out really well for him here. One of the ways that TF Swain can lose to itself is not finding any of those late game targets. Once you do actually get to turn 8, you're just sitting on your hands. As scary and threatening as Leviathan and Riptide Rex are, the Captain Farron is a little more consistent in terms of actually pressuring the game and stealing things back. So I definitely don't hate it. And now we are going to have to throw the block onto it. This will still put us in range of all of the decimates, but we do have the Grasp of the Undying. Sleep with the Fishies might even come out just to keep the pressure on, play around a little bit of the healing that AaamBaaam has available. You do know that there are star shapings and grasps and things like that in the deck. But for now, we're just going to kill Jack the Winner and push a little bit more damage down onto this Captain Farron. Still won't be in grasp range, even with the Sleep with the Fishes potentially coming down onto it.
Yeah, good news for AaamBaaam, though. This Priestess could pick up another Meteor to finish it off. Something like the Comet. Has the heal to get through the decimates. There's still, 3 cards after this round starts. Bratchedkata kind of falling behind. Lost the Equinox on that turn, so a Leviathan would be very scary.
Ooh. And now we've got a lethal representation through the Golden Sisters.
Nice. Yeah, this is a big pickup here. Going to require a response, which would probably drop Bratchedkata down on mana to maybe, the best defense is good offense, they say. So, present lethal.
Is that how that saying goes?
Yeah, we just said it. That's the saying.
That's fair. And if Noxian Fervor does... Oh, okay, no, we are just completely out of Noxian Fervor range. We do have the Zap Sprayfin, though, and we are just 1 mana shy of actually getting down this Grasp of the Undying to kill it and push through the lethal. Gonna see what Nightfall card we can get here.
Yeah, Pale Cascade would be a good pickup here to offer the trade with one sister with the Farron. Doombeast
okay,
is great.
Doombeast, we are so close to lethal, but don't quite have it yet.
Wow, yeah, Doombeast, even if AaamBaaam, it opens up some top decks here, like another Unspeakable Horror paired with this Doombeast. Could close the game. Not here right now, so we'll see what kind of pressure Bratchedkata can push out here. Looking to line up the open attack with the Farron. Again, was Equinox earlier, so the Overwhelm is not a consideration.
So I kind of like throwing out the Grasp in combat there. Just because if I try to throw out the Grasp onto the Farron a little bit later, I do open myself up to the possibility of it getting Noxian Fervor to dodge it. If you throw out the Grasp there, then the Fervor will kill it. The Fervor will go onto it. The Grasp will kill it, and then I get to protect my Golden Sisters. But now we are so close. I think I would have liked the attack with the Silver Sister on the previous turn. That's actually something that I missed because now, the Zap Sprayfin is still there. We're going to get the Thresh down to pull it to the side. And maybe it is worth preserving the health on it as we do see a Swain picked up by this Leviathan. I think that Am should be able to pick this one up. Has the Thresh to pull the Zap to the side. Has a Grasp of the Undying if some other kind of elusive comes down, but it will just be the open attack. And it really comes down to, does Xiramus have Noxian Fervor to kill this 4-3?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the card. And with 2 Fervors in deck, we'll see... Looks to soften up with a Death's Hand. That does open up some more options in Ravenous Flock and maybe the 3rd Make It Rain on the gamble. Nope. Finishes it off here. That's 1 tick up for the Thresh. Falling behind with the Swain in hand, this is going to be tough. A board that can block.
Unspeakable Heart. Oh, man.
That's what
Thought I could do it one time.
I do that so often too. I should have called it. I do it so often. I should have called it. Gonna go for the smallest unit to remove with the Thresh. No, I'm looking for it.
I mean, so now the Swain comes down. If we throw out Grasp of the Undying onto any unit, we theoretically have lethal.
Well, unfortunately, if the grasp happens, that does give priority back to Bratchedkata to play one of these two decimates that are still sitting in hand. Since the Swain's leveled up, that'll take off one.
Oh yeah, that'll stun a unit. Oh man, I remembered it for the Sejuani level, but not the Swain level.
That's why I thought that Thresh lineup on the last turn was so huge because it provided the open attack. At first glance, it looked like, oh, now you're gonna have to grasp something before you attack, but the challenger was gonna be able to take that zap off to clear for the elusive. That's why I thought that wasn't going to be that great. But yeah, the Swain, Leviathan, that's going to be trouble. Also, like you mentioned, you can't really develop, remove a blocker because then you'll just lose an attacker, and you're at parity at that point. So, gonna look for a value Thresh pickup here, I think.
What is this Thresh sitting at in terms of level up?
It's 1 of 6. It only saw the sister die.
I feel like the only way that you could come back into this game would be able to level the Thresh this turn all the way on the right, get a lineup onto the Swain, and then grasp it, because I don't think you're living through this Leviathan Swain combination.
Yeah, because you're not going to have any blockers for the Swain to open. Even though you remove the Captain Farron here, the Leviathan also is going to push at least 3 Overwhelm, so you're looking at 10 after the Leviathan ping. So 13 potential damage right here. Not to mention the Decimate in hand. I think we're drawn to the Unspeakable Horror here. Let's see if we can get this top deck.
Does any amount of healing save you? Like if you draw... Oh, no, Leona's not going to do it. I was wondering if a Star Shaping would be enough, but I don't think the answer is yes. The Overwhelm and the Fearsome going to be too much, and that is going to be AaamBaaam falling down 0-2 here in the top 16. Bratchedkata going to move on to the top 8.
Yeah, we got what we wanted, 2 games out of this Thresh deck, but I think just the heavier mid-range decks seem to be trouble for the old Thresh Leona brew.
Yeah, I feel like there was a possibility to win that first game. The second one did seem to slip away just a little bit more, despite the life totals looking so low.
Yeah. Yeah, the first game, I think probably the Sketcher needed to come down and be a little bit more aggressive. Or especially after War Mothers, as we mentioned, you got to really close the game. Do we have any other